Welcome to Faces of History. Here we uncover fascinating stories from the past and dive into the lives of legendary figures who shaped the course of world history. If you're passionate about history and the incredible journeys of those who made it, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest videos. Let's embark on this inspiring journey through time together. The evolution and strengthening of Lenin's revolutionary thought. 1. Early political activities. The first step, understanding and studying Marxism. After being expelled from Kazan University, Lenin returned home with a deep-seated anger and an unwavering determination. Rather than abandoning his ideals, he used this time to delve into revolutionary ideologies, focusing on Marxism. Lenin sought out key works like the Communist Manifesto and Das Kapital by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels, convinced that these texts held the key to liberating Russia from oppression and injustice. Marxism, with its focus on class struggle and the necessity of a proletarian revolution, quickly became central to Lenin's thinking. He realized that Russia's social problems couldn't be fixed with piecemeal reforms or temporary changes. Only a complete revolution would suffice. Lenin began to see that even though Russia's working class was relatively small, it was the essential force capable of overthrowing the bourgeoisie and building a new society. Joining underground revolutionary groups, with a solid foundation in Marxist principles, Lenin sought out like-minded individuals and joined underground revolutionary groups. He quickly connected with young intellectuals, workers, and progressive thinkers who shared his desire for radical change. These secret meetings became spaces where Lenin and his comrades discussed Marxist ideology and planned practical actions. In these meetings, Lenin evolved from being a student of revolutionary theory to becoming a leader. His deep understanding of Marxism and unshakable determination inspired those around him, solidifying his role as one of the movement's young leaders. He encouraged his peers to believe that only through persistent struggle could real change be achieved. Writing and publishing early revolutionary writings. Lenin recognized that to attract more people to the revolutionary cause, Marxist ideas had to reach a broader audience. He began writing essays and pamphlets on revolutionary theory, the injustices in Russian society, and the need for a class-based revolution. To avoid detection by the Tsarist authorities, Lenin used various pseudonyms and covert publishing methods. Lenin's writings spread rapidly among progressive intellectuals and workers, stirring a revolutionary consciousness within the labor class. He stressed that true change was never easy and that workers must be prepared to face hardships to claim their rights. His calls to action sparked a revolutionary fervor in many young people and workers who began to envision a new path for society. These early political activities marked Lenin's emergence as a young, determined revolutionary leader. Despite the dangers, he persisted in spreading Marxist ideas and urging the working class to rise up. Through his dedication and passion, Lenin laid the foundational stones for a revolutionary movement that would one day change Russia forever. 2. Understanding Lenin's psychology, ideological transformation, and resolute determination. The impact of personal losses. Like anyone else, Lenin's life began with simple hopes and dreams. However, personal tragedies profoundly reshaped him. The sudden death of his father and especially the execution of his brother Alexander for participating in the revolutionary movement shattered Lenin's world. This pain and anger became the fuel for him to delve deeper into the injustices of society. Alexander's death was not only a personal loss, but also a stark wake-up call for Lenin. To him, his brother's execution wasn't just a punishment. It was a brutal display of a merciless regime that silenced anyone daring enough to stand against it. Lenin began to feel strongly that social injustice was something that could neither be tolerated nor ignored. Ideological transformation. Channeling grief into revolutionary ideals. Personal tragedy set Lenin on a journey of ideological transformation. Instead of succumbing to despair, he started turning his pain into revolutionary ideals. Lenin gradually realized that Russian society could not survive under an oppressive feudal regime that protected the interests of the few while exploiting the many. Through self-study and reflection, particularly with exposure to Marxist theory, Lenin found a clear ideological path. Marxism, with its concepts of class struggle and the need for a proletarian revolution, helped him see society in a systematic way. He became convinced that the working class and peasants, as laborers, were the only ones capable of bringing about radical change in Russian society. Determination and iron will. Through personal losses and ideological transformation, Lenin forged a fierce revolutionary resolve. He refused any compromise with the existing regime and rejected minor reforms. Lenin believed only a complete revolution could liberate the working class and establish social justice. From then on, he was uncompromising in his actions and beliefs. Lenin's resolve showed not only in words but also in deeds. He was willing to face all dangers, from police repression to the risk of imprisonment. He believed that his revolutionary ideals were worth fighting for, even at great personal sacrifice. Lenin was not only an idealist, but a pragmatic leader willing to fight for his beliefs. Lenin's ideological journey was not just about embracing new ideas, but a process of transforming from a grief-stricken young man to a resolute leader. Hardships did not deter him. Rather, they fueled his determination. This unbreakable spirit made Lenin a powerful revolutionary force, inspiring others with shared ideals and laying the groundwork for Russia's revolutionary movement. 3. Key events shaping Lenin's ideology. Labor strikes and the workers' movement. In the 1890s, as Russia entered an era of industrialization, working conditions for laborers worsened. Workers endured grueling conditions, long hours, and meager wages. This plight led to a wave of strikes and protests where the working class voiced their anger over injustices from employers and the government. Witnessing the suffering and frustration of the working class firsthand, Lenin understood that they were the only force capable of real change in Russian society. He saw enormous potential in the labor movement and recognized that, with proper organization and leadership, the working class could become the driving force of a sweeping revolution. Influence of European revolutionary movements. Beyond Russia's borders, revolutionary movements across Europe also greatly influenced Lenin's ideology. Revolutions in France, Germany, and other European countries in the 19th century inspired hope for the overthrow of feudal systems and the rise of the working class. The Paris Commune of 1871 in particular became a major symbol for Lenin, as it represented the first attempt by workers to establish their own government. From the Paris Commune, Lenin learned that a revolutionary government must be protected and sustained at all costs. He began to develop ideas about creating a government for the workers and peasants, not only to replace the old system, but to drive the revolution forward. For Lenin, the Paris Commune was proof that the proletariat could govern itself without bourgeois leadership. The 1905 Revolution. The first major revolution Lenin witnessed was the January 1905 revolution in Russia. It began when thousands of workers held a peaceful demonstration outside the Tsar's palace in St. Petersburg, demanding reforms and basic rights. But instead of listening, Tsarist forces brutally suppressed the protest, killing over 150 demonstrators and injuring hundreds more. This event, known as Bloody Sunday, shocked Russia and ignited widespread revolutionary fervor. The brutality of the Tsar's regime and the courage of the workers further solidified Lenin's revolutionary ideals. He realized that the Tsar would never willingly cede power to the working class, and that only the complete overthrow of the feudal system could bring freedom and justice. The 1905 revolution reinforced Lenin's belief in a violent revolution and underscored the need for workers to unite and prepare for a larger revolution. These significant events left a lasting impression on Lenin and shaped his revolutionary vision. Through strikes, the influence of international revolutionary movements in the 1905 revolution, Lenin recognized that overthrowing the Tsarist regime would require a powerful, organized, and unwavering proletarian revolution. The lessons from these events became the guiding principles for Lenin's political activities and set the course for the revolution he would lead. In the early years of his political career, Lenin gradually developed and strengthened his revolutionary thought. From a student of Marxism, he transformed into a leader with a clear vision and unbreakable resolve. He believed that revolution was the only path to liberate Russia from injustice, and that the working class, under the leadership of a vanguard, would be the force to alter history. These convictions laid the groundwork for the Bolshevik movement in the coming Russian Revolution. The prelude to the October Revolution. 1. Social and political crisis in Russia. At the dawn of the 20th century, Russia was tightly bound by the iron grip of an autocratic Tsarist regime, with power concentrated in the hands of the emperor and a small circle of aristocrats. The majority of the population, particularly peasants and workers, faced extreme hardship. Peasants, who made up most of Russia's population, suffered under relentless exploitation and heavy taxes, while workers toiled in deplorable conditions with little protection. The Tsarist government ignored the people's pleas and instead suppressed any signs of discontent. Every effort at reform met resistance or was blocked outright by conservative leadership. While other European nations were industrializing and embracing democratic ideals, Russia remained a feudal state under the absolute control of the Tsar and his elite circle. 2. The toll of World War I. When World War I erupted in 1914, Tsar Nicholas II led Russia into the conflict. However, a lack of preparation and poor strategic decisions left the Russian army in chaos. Millions of Russian soldiers faced death or severe injury, eroding the public's trust in the Tsarist government. The war took a brutal toll on the Russian economy as well. Massive war expenses drove food shortages and soaring inflation, leading to riots and protests in major cities. The war's physical devastation and psychological toll plunged the people into despair. 3. The rise of revolutionary movements. Against this backdrop of growing social instability, revolutionary movements started to emerge. The Bolshevik Party, led by Lenin, rose as the vanguard of the proletariat. Lenin and his comrades believed that only a working-class revolution could bring freedom and justice to Russian laborers. The Bolshevik Party called for an end to the war, redistribution of land to the peasants, and protection of workers' rights. Their slogans resonated deeply with the working class and peasantry, sparking hope for radical change. Lenin's ideas began to spread widely, and the Bolsheviks gained support across Russian society. 4. The February Revolution and the Provisional Government. In February 1917, growing discontent exploded into the February Revolution. Thousands of workers and soldiers took to the streets of Petrograd, demanding an end to the Tsarist regime and calling for political reform. This massive protest forced Tsar Nicholas II to abdicate, ending more than 300 years of Romanov rule. A provisional government was established, hoping to stabilize the situation and enact reforms. However, the new government quickly lost public support when it decided to continue the war rather than address the people's needs. The provisional government's failure to meet the people's demands left a power vacuum, providing the Bolsheviks an opportunity to step in. Recognizing this moment as a historic opportunity, Lenin began rallying the people to seize power from the provisional government. Amid the economic, social, and political crises, Lenin and the Bolshevik Party emerged as a leading force for revolution. When the provisional government failed to address the people's needs, the call for a comprehensive revolution became louder than ever. This set the stage for the October Revolution, a transformative event that would forever change Russia and the world. The October Revolution, the beginning of the struggle. 1. Lenin returns to Russia and calls for revolution. After years in exile, Lenin returned to Russia in April 1917 with a clear goal: to lead a revolution that would overthrow the provisional government and bring power to the working class and peasantry. His return reignited revolutionary fervor among the people and boosted the morale of the Bolshevik Party members. Upon arriving in Petrograd, Lenin immediately began planning for a proletarian revolution. In his first speech, he declared, "Peace, land, and bread." Simple demands that resonated powerfully with the people. Workers, peasants, and soldiers quickly rallied around these essential calls. 2. Preparing for the uprising. Lenin's strategic plans. Having secured widespread public support, Lenin began meticulously planning the uprising. He held secret meetings with Bolshevik leaders to devise strategies for the revolution. Lenin was convinced that swift and decisive action was necessary, with a focus on seizing key positions throughout the city. Lenin's strategy centered on capturing crucial locations like railway stations, post offices, radio towers, banks, and government buildings. He knew that controlling these locations would immobilize the provisional government, securing victory for the revolution. 3. October 25th, the start of the October Revolution. On the night of October 24th and into the morning of October 25th, 1917 Russian calendar, Bolshevik forces under the leadership of Lenin and Leon Trotsky launched the uprising. Supported by the Red Guards and Kronstadt sailors, Bolshevik units rapidly moved to occupy critical sites in Petrograd. This was a turning point in the revolutionary struggle. One by one, they seized locations, from post offices to radio stations. With each victory, the provisional government's power was further diminished. By the evening of October 25th, the revolutionary forces had surrounded the Winter Palace, the provisional government's headquarters. 4. The storming of the Winter Palace and the fall of the provisional government. Around 2 a.m. on October 26th, Bolshevik forces stormed the Winter Palace, where the provisional government leaders were hiding. After a brief skirmish, they took control of the palace and arrested the officials, marking the official collapse of the provisional government. The revolution succeeded with minimal bloodshed, but it struck a decisive blow to the old order, ushering in the proletariat's rise to power. This was the first time in history a revolutionary party had successfully overthrown a bourgeois government to establish a workers' state. 5. The Soviet Government Declaration and the First Steps. Upon seizing power, Lenin and the Bolsheviks immediately declared the formation of the Soviet government, the world's first state of workers and peasants. The Soviet government's proclamation promised peace, land for peasants, and the protection of workers' rights. Their first reforms, ending Russia's involvement in the war and redistributing land, quickly gained widespread support among peasants and workers. The Bolsheviks established revolutionary committees to oversee and restructure society, laying the foundation for a new system. The October Revolution of 1917 was not only a historic event for Russia, but also a global revolution that reshaped political systems and inspired labor movements worldwide. Under Lenin's determined leadership, the Bolsheviks executed a successful uprising, paving the way for the Soviet Union and a new era in history. Lenin's strategy and tactics. 1. Lenin's vision and strategic plan. Lenin was not only a revolutionary leader, but also a sharp strategist with a clear vision. He knew that to gain and retain power, the revolution couldn't rely solely on ideals. It required organization, meticulous planning, and adaptability. Lenin focused on harnessing widespread public discontent and transforming it into revolutionary momentum. He believed timing was crucial and that when the moment came, the Bolsheviks had to act swiftly and decisively to seize power. 2. Building the revolutionary vanguard. Lenin understood that an unruly mob could not lead a successful revolution. He developed the concept of a revolutionary vanguard, a tightly knit group of loyal, committed, and well-trained individuals to lead and organize the movement. This vanguard included leaders, organizers, and dedicated fighters prepared to follow orders and act in any situation. With this core team, Lenin built a strong revolutionary organization ready to claim power at the right moment. 3. Seizing strategic locations. Lenin knew that controlling strategic locations was essential to victory. He and the Bolshevik leaders planned to capture Petrograd's crucial infrastructure points, such as railway stations, post offices, radio towers, banks, and, most importantly, the Winter Palace. By securing these sites, Lenin believed they could paralyze the provisional government, cutting off its ability to communicate and coordinate. One by one, Bolshevik forces took over critical positions, paving the way for an almost resistance-free revolution. 4. Using media and propaganda. Lenin was a master of propaganda. After taking control of the radio station and other media outlets, he used them to spread the Bolshevik message, emphasizing that revolution was the only way to achieve peace, land, and social justice. Through widespread messaging, Lenin built trust and unity among the masses, encouraging workers and peasants to join the struggle. He understood that effective communication would sustain public support and mobilize the laboring classes to fight for the revolution. 5. Decisiveness in action. Lenin believed in swift, decisive action. In the critical moments of the October Revolution, he demanded that the Bolsheviks move quickly and confidently. Lenin never allowed hesitation and always maintained a high fighting spirit, ensuring the revolution reached its final goal. His determination and unyielding spirit inspired the Bolsheviks, ensuring they were all willing to make sacrifices to achieve the revolution's objectives. This uncompromising approach enabled the October Revolution's success and cemented Bolshevik rule. Lenin's tactics and strategies during the October Revolution revealed him as a revolutionary thinker and a skilled strategist. The well-trained vanguard, tactical seizure of key sites and powerful communication helped Lenin and the Bolsheviks secure a sweeping victory, fundamentally changing Russia and writing a new chapter in global revolutionary history. 4. Key events of the revolution. 1. Bloody Sunday, 1905. One of the events that awakened revolutionary fervor and solidified Lenin's resolve was Bloody Sunday in 1905. On this day, thousands of Russian workers gathered peacefully outside the Winter Palace, demanding reforms and better living conditions. They carried banners calling for peace, but instead of negotiations, the Tsar's troops opened fire on the unarmed crowd. This peaceful protest quickly turned into a massacre, with over 150 people killed and hundreds injured. The incident shocked Russia and sparked outrage worldwide. For Lenin, Bloody Sunday was undeniable proof that the Tsarist regime would not tolerate any opposition, and that only revolution could dismantle such a brutal regime. 2. The Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, 1918. After seizing power, Lenin and the Bolsheviks faced a critical decision. Should they keep Russia in the war or make peace with Germany? Given the country's exhausted state, Lenin chose to sign the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk in March 1918, ending Russia's involvement in World War I. Though controversial, this was a strategic move on Lenin's part. The treaty required Russia to cede large portions of land to Germany, including territories in Poland, Ukraine, and the Baltic region. Despite the territorial losses, Lenin believed that peace was essential for stabilizing the Bolshevik government and refocusing resources on internal rebuilding. This allowed the Bolsheviks to shift from war efforts to constructing the Soviet government's foundations. 3. The April Theses and Lenin's call to action. One of the turning points in preparing for the October Revolution was Lenin's April Theses. In April 1917, shortly after his return to Russia, Lenin presented a brief yet radical program outlining the Bolshevik path to power. In his April Theses, Lenin called for the overthrow of the provisional government and the establishment of a Soviet state for workers and peasants. The slogan, "All power to the Soviets," became a rallying cry, inspiring the working class and bolstering public faith in the Bolshevik Party. The April Theses served as a roadmap, guiding the Bolshevik movement in the months leading up to the October Revolution. 4. The storming of the Winter Palace. A defining moment of the October Revolution was the storming of the Winter Palace, the stronghold of the provisional government. On the night of October 25, 1917, under Lenin and Trotsky's command, Bolshevik forces, along with the Red Guards and sailors from Kronstadt, launched an assault on the palace. The attack faced minimal resistance, and by the early hours of October 26th, the provisional government had been overthrown. This momentous victory marked the successful establishment of a worker and peasant government, the first of its kind in history. 5. The Soviet government's declaration and early reforms. Following their triumph, Lenin and the Bolsheviks declared the formation of the Soviet government, pledging peace, land redistribution for peasants, and the protection of workers' rights. The new government quickly enacted sweeping reforms to legitimize its rule and address the people's needs. Among the first reforms was a land redistribution law, which divided the aristocracy's lands among peasants. Factories and major industries were nationalized, and workers' rights were strengthened. These early policies provided hope to workers and peasants and cemented the Soviet government's legitimacy. The October Revolution's major events demonstrated Lenin's commitment to building a just and equitable society. From Bloody Sunday to the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk and the successful Winter Palace siege, each event contributed to a new era in Russia. Under Lenin's leadership, the Bolsheviks accomplished their mission, establishing a Soviet government that would inspire global revolutionary movements. 5. Lenin and the Bolsheviks' consolidation of power. 1. Establishing the Soviet government. After their success in the October Revolution, Lenin and the Bolsheviks quickly founded the Soviet government, a new system based on workers' and peasants' control. Lenin knew that to sustain the revolution's achievements, the new government needed to be organized and highly effective. The Soviet government wasn't just a new administration, it was a symbol of working class and peasant power. Lenin emphasized the role of the Soviets, or local councils, in managing and making critical decisions. These Soviets allowed people to participate in governance, reaffirming the Soviet government's commitment to people's power. 2. Initial economic and social reforms. To consolidate power and meet the public's expectations, the Soviet government implemented a series of significant reforms. These reforms aimed to redistribute wealth and power, ensuring that workers and peasants, the revolution's backbone, would benefit from the Bolshevik victory. One of the most notable reforms was the land law, which redistributed land from the aristocrats and landowners to the peasants. Factories and large industries were nationalized and placed under worker control. The new government also reduced work hours, improved wages, and strengthened labor protections. 3. Establishing and expanding the role of the Cheka. To protect the Soviet government from threats and opposition, Lenin created the Cheka, the first Soviet security organization. Led by Felix Dzerzhinsky, the Cheka was tasked with tracking down and eliminating counter-revolutionaries and anyone who threatened the stability of the new government. Under Dzerzhinsky's leadership, the Cheka quickly gained power and authority. Its agents could arrest and punish counter-revolutionaries without formal trials. The Cheka was more than a security agency. It became a symbol of the revolution's resolve and an essential tool for maintaining Bolshevik control. 4. The Red Terror and suppressive measures. With the country still in turmoil and opposition from many fronts, Lenin and the Bolsheviks implemented the Red Terror, a policy of intense repression to eliminate resistance, targeting everyone from former aristocrats to anti-revolutionary factions. The Red Terror was not only a tool for maintaining power, but also a political strategy to protect the revolution's gains. Although it stirred controversy, Lenin believed it was necessary to prevent the Soviet government from being undermined by counter-revolutionary forces. 5. The introduction of the new economic policy, NEP. Realizing that the country's economy was near collapse after years of war and revolution, Lenin introduced the new economic policy, NEP, in 1921. This policy allowed limited private enterprise, with the state retaining control of large industries, to revitalize the economy. Under the NEP, peasants and small business owners could engage in private trade, helping revitalize a weakened economy and address widespread famine. Though a departure from initial communist ideals, Lenin viewed the NEP as essential for stabilizing the country and building a foundation for socialism. 6. Developing leadership and training the next generation. To ensure the Soviet government's longevity, Lenin focused on creating and training a new leadership team. He established schools for political and ideological education, preparing the next generation to uphold the revolutionary values and maintain Bolshevik governance. Lenin believed that only a dedicated and educated leadership could ensure the Soviet government's stability and growth. Through training and education, he prepared a loyal generation of leaders, securing Bolshevik rule and guiding Russia for years to come. By implementing reforms, consolidating power, and suppressing opposition, Lenin and the Bolsheviks successfully established the Soviet government after the October Revolution. Despite numerous challenges, they laid the foundation for a new political system. Under Lenin's guidance, the Bolsheviks didn't just seize power. They created a Soviet state with a global influence and lasting historical significance. The October Revolution marked a turning point for Russia and the world. With steadfast leadership and strategic insight, Lenin led the Bolsheviks to power and set the foundation for a Marxist society in Russia. From this point on, Lenin and the Bolsheviks continued building a Soviet society, initiating a new era for Russia and the international communist movement. If you're passionate about history and the incredible journeys of those who made it, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay updated with our latest videos. Let's embark on this inspiring journey through time together.